This feels so weird. Oh, it has been a while. So much has happened. Literally so much has happened. I don't even know where to start, but we're just gonna start and get you guys up to date because it's really been a while. Last time we touched base, I shared a little bit of what's been going on in my life, but the past few months since then, things have really changed even more drastically than I could have really expected. So I'm gonna take us back a little bit to start. This is gonna be a huge life update, sharing about my diagnosis that I recently got, second diagnosis, where the business is going and a huge change coming to my freelance business, and what's next for the channel, what I'm gonna be sharing. I'm so excited to be back and just can't wait to reconnect with you all. Thank you all who have touched base with me and reached out. I really, really appreciate it. Sorry to those I have not responded to yet. It's, like you're gonna hear, been a crazy year. So let's just jump right into it. If you've been here for a while, you know that a few years ago, I quit my 9-to-5 job, and a lot of the reasons why I quit my job is because it was severely impacting my health. I really thought that all of my problems stemmed from the stress and anxiety that my job was causing, the misalignment for my job, and while I do think that played a huge role, and I'll never know how much of that contributed to what I'm about to share, I now just wonder, looking back, how much of that I already had going on that I was really just ignoring and telling myself, it's my job, it's my job. That being said, I cannot imagine having gone through what I have been going through for the past really 2 years while being in a 9-to-5 regular job. I truly would have lost my mind. I would have quit anyways, so it's really, there's no regrets here. It was all supposed to be how it happened. Like, that's what was supposed to happen. But basically over the past year, I have started working less and less on a weekly basis for my freelance business. I obviously have not been posting on YouTube. I have gone to working basically 15 to 20 hours a week. And I'm very grateful for the clients that I've had that have stuck with me through everything that has been happening, because I really could not have made it through without them. And I am just so grateful for so many of my clients that have been so amazing. So if you are one of them, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. Wow, did not expect to get emotional about that. About a year and a half ago over the summer, I had a cyst rupture. I shared about that, I'm pretty sure, at some point, but I had a really bad cyst rupture that really put me out for almost a month. It actually ruptured on me 2 different times, and I had a ton of internal bleeding going on. Thankfully, I didn't have to get surgery, didn't have to have anything removed, and I was able to heal it over time. Like, not me, my body just healed it and reabsorbed it, and I got very lucky with that. But ever since then, things have felt more off than they ever had. I already felt off for a while, but that was really the driver that started this like trickling effect for my health. So I began looking for answers, because after healing from that, I just never felt better. I still felt like trash all the time and was like exhausted 24/7. So in about March or April of last year, I had been going to gynecologists and doctors trying to get answers on why this cyst rupture happened and how it might be related to some of the other symptoms I was experiencing. And I was basically just told every single time that I had PCOS, it was due to PCOS, blah, 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 blah. But that diagnosis never made sense to me. It didn't feel right. Although some of my hormones were out of whack, I wasn't really meeting all the criteria perfectly, in my opinion. And my ultrasounds were not showing that I had like the string of pearls, if you're familiar with PCOS, or like a lot of small cysts. I literally had just had the huge one that burst on me. So it just didn't really fit to me. And when I read about people's experiences that had PCOS, I just didn't relate to them. And it wasn't this like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me type of feeling. So I kept searching for answers. And one of the doctors I spoke to talked about the fact that PCOS is a diagnosis of exclusion. Stick with me. It moves quickly. Okay, I know this is a long story. As I learned that, I realized that I had not been excluded from any of the other diagnoses that would need to be excluded before being told I have PCOS. So I went to an endocrinologist and I told her my experience, and she said, while yes, you do meet the diagnostic criteria for PCOS, you are right that you need to be excluded from these other things before we can definitively say like, yes, you have PCOS. So that led to some more blood tests, which ended up finding that I had a very high prolactin level, which led to an MRI that discovered I actually have a tumor on my pituitary gland called a prolactinoma. It's not cancerous, thank God. And it basically just secretes a bunch of prolactin and pushes on my pituitary gland and causes a lot of hormonal issues. So that was a doozy, and that all was diagnosed while we were in the process of moving to a house that we began renting. We finally were like, we're done with apartments, we need more space. We moved into this house, and I shared a bit about this before, but the house ended up having mold in it. Within literally like a few hours of being there, I felt extremely nauseous, and that nausea never went away the whole time I was in that house. I didn't even realize at first that it was mold. I thought I was getting like a stomach bug or something, and very long story short, but more and more symptoms were coming up. I started coughing and feeling congested all the time, and we finally found that there was a mold issue in the house. The landlord was like, I don't even need to get into all of that, but thankfully he ended up just letting us leave, and he let us break the lease after 3 weeks of being there. He refunded our deposit and just let us go. We just basically paid the first month of rent, and that's it. We lost our like last week of rent that we paid, but whatever. And we left. Thankfully, we found this apartment, which honestly, we took a huge leap of faith signing this lease. It is more expensive than anything we've ever paid before, but it was the only place I could find that had immediate availability and felt very safe to me. And after I found out about the tumor literally 1 week before we moved in here. And with everything else going on, I just was like, I need safety and security. I need to move in somewhere that I have no concerns about mold, that I have no concerns about people breaking in. Like, I just need to feel like 1000% okay in my home. So we found this place and we decided that it made sense to rent it. And thankfully it has all been fine so far in terms of like paying for it. So grateful for that. But we moved in here and it has been such an amazing blessing. Like, this apartment, I just can't imagine if I had been going through everything else that came after this, being in that house we were in, or even being in a place with like less space, and really everything happened the way it was supposed to. So hang on for that and you'll hear more of why that's the case. I started treating the tumor, which thankfully to start, like the first line treatment is just a medication that is supposed to shrink the tumor over time. I've been on the medication now for 6 months and my prolactin levels are stabilized, which I'm very happy about. I actually have a follow-up appointment Thursday in like 2 days to talk with my endocrinologist about that. And I'm very excited and hopefully that all goes well. But what I'm seeing in my lab results is like everything is going great. I do a follow-up MRI in 6 more months to see if the tumor has shrunk and if it's gone. And then you basically just stay on the medication for a bit longer to ensure that like everything is fully gone before coming off of it. So hopefully this ends up being like a quick process. Like, they said 2 years is the ideal time frame and you get to be done with the medication and be tumor free. Praying that that is the case for me and that all goes to plan. That being said, after I started treating the tumor, within a few months, I noticed that about 50% of my symptoms were a lot better, but I was still dealing with a certain amount of symptoms that I had had for a long time. And when I was diagnosed with this tumor, I did ask my endocrinologist, I was like, hey, so here's my list of symptoms. Do you feel like, and have you seen that this tumor causes like these symptoms? And she basically was like, half of those, yes. The other half, maybe. Everyone responds a bit differently because your pituitary gland does control a lot of different hormone levels, and hormones being out of whack can cause a lot of different weird things for different people. So maybe, and hopefully, but until we start treating it and your prolactin levels are stabilized and we like give you a few months, we really won't know for sure. So fast forward a few months, I was again still dealing with about 50% of the same symptoms that I had, and they didn't seem to be going away. Still was kind of hopeful, optimistic that they would go away over time of treatment. But on my birthday at the end of September, I had a really bad episode that I have had in the past, which was basically an extremely bad lightheaded spell where I kept feeling like I was gonna pass out. I was walking around Target with Oliver and we were just like looking at shoes. I was standing in the shoe area and basically every time I kept like squatting down to look at the shoes and I kept getting like super dizzy and I was like, whoa, I don't feel right. So I was like, I need to sit down, which again, this like happens every once in a while to me, sometimes more dramatically than others. So I didn't really initially like think anything of it. And Oliver was like, okay, just sit down for a few minutes. And I kept getting impatient, being like, okay, I feel better. And like standing up. And as soon as I would stand up, I would be like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not okay. And I'd sit back down. This went on for a couple of minutes of me getting up and sitting back down, getting up, sitting back down until finally Oliver was like, sit down and like stay sitting down for like 5 minutes straight. And I was like, okay, fine. So I stayed and I sat and eventually I felt better and better enough to get up and leave. I still felt off, very tired after that and not right, but I felt better. Well, later that day, I realized like I've been wearing my Whoop now for over a year. At that point, it had been like 1 year of me wearing it. And it never occurred to me to check my heart rate and how it was reacting to these episodes. But I thought, you know, let me look at my heart rate. I wonder like what was happening during that. And basically my heart rate was spiking to like 150, 160 every time I was standing up and then dropping drastically back down to like 70, 80 as soon as I would sit down. So that was strange to me. And I was like, okay, that's a little weird. And I actually had a primary care doctor appointment scheduled for that week because I was about to be going on my big trip to Japan and Korea. And I had wanted to just check in with my primary care doctor before my trip and just like check in about everything going on with my health and get kind of like a, yeah, you're good to go. Go on your trip. You're fine. So I went and I told her, you know, this is probably nothing. I'm guessing it might be like a blood sugar thing maybe, but I had this episode yesterday and I have these every once in a while, but you know, what do you think? Do you think it's blood sugar? And she was like, that does not sound like blood sugar. So that led down a whole conversation of her saying, you know, you've come in multiple times over the past few years talking about dizziness and lightheadedness and fatigue. Until now, we'd never known about the heart rate going up. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, this doesn't sound like blood sugar to me. I think there's something else going on and I want to do more testing to see. So we did an EKG, which thankfully came back normal. Everything was fine there. And she wanted to then do a Holter monitor to monitor my heart over a week period, and then an echocardiogram to look at the structure of my heart. That's like an ultrasound of your heart. So I was like, sure, let's do it. I'm about to go on my trip. I want to make sure like I'm okay and I should be going. And then she told me that, my nose. She then told me about POTS, and I had heard about POTS from like social media, but never really like read into it, looked into it, never thought it related to me at all. So I didn't really know anything about it. And she was like, a lot of women your age have been having this come up for them. And what you're describing sounds very similar to some of the other women that I'm treating for this. And I was like, oh, okay. So she brought me some paperwork on it, explained it to me, and basically said, come back, you know, this day to get the Holter monitor, and then we'll do the echo and blah, 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 blah. I was like, okay, great. Because POTS is also a diagnosis of exclusion. You need to exclude any other problems before you get to that point. So I left and read up on the paperwork that she gave me and learned about the poor man's tilt test, what standing test, I don't know what it's called. Basically, it's where you at home monitor your heart rate while sitting and standing over a 10-minute period. And there's details. I'm not going to explain the test because if you're here to learn about POTS, that's not me. I can't explain it to you. But I did the test as described in the paperwork she gave me and clearly passed the criteria for the test. Like it was like obvious. My heart rate was going up a lot, like to 150, 160, just like it was in Target, but I was having less severe symptoms. So that's when I realized, I started looking back at my Whoop data and started noticing that anytime I was standing up from sitting, especially for a prolonged period of time, I was having a super strong increase in my heart rate. So like being in the car and driving home, and then the moment I would be like in the car, it'd be like 70 beats per minute. As soon as I would stand up to like walk inside my apartment, like no stairs, literally just a tiny short walk to my apartment, and doing that would raise my heart rate to 130, 140, sometimes 150, 160. That started signaling to me like, ooh, maybe she's onto something, obviously, unless there's something else like wrong with my heart. Fast forward, we do the Holter monitor. Basically, it shows that I'm having a lot of elevated heart rate spikes throughout the day, but nothing else was wrong. Echocardiogram came back completely normal. Everything's fine. She says, I'm referring you to cardiology at this point so they can look more into this. Referred to cardiologist. I had to emergently get, is that the right word? Urgently, I don't know, whatever, get an appointment with a cardiologist, because at this point my trip was in 2 weeks and I really wanted to be given like the thumbs up, like you're good to go out of the country right now and your heart is okay. So I saw a cardiologist. He was like, yes, you're fine. He also was like, this doesn't look like you don't have a heart problem. POTS isn't a heart problem, but clearly something is happening with this increase in heart rate with you, and we can put you on a beta blocker to help with that in the meantime. He did not specialize in POTS, so all he could really say was like, structurally, everything I'm seeing with your heart is fine. And yeah, there's something going on, but yeah, I would see the POTS specialist for more information. But in the meantime, we can put you on this medication, lower your heart rate, calm things down, hopefully help while you're on your trip. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. I usually don't jump to medication that quickly, but going on my trip, I knew like I needed support. Like this wasn't gonna work. So I got on this medication and 2 weeks later left for my 5-week trip to Korea and Japan. And I won't go too much into the trip, but it was the best and worst 5 weeks of my entire life. I loved the trip. I don't regret going on it at all. And I'm so grateful that I was able to do that and take off the time from work, and the rest in terms of work rest was much needed, but it was such a physical toll, took such a physical toll on my body. I can't even begin to explain it. It makes me emotional, like just thinking about how rough that trip was for me. But I basically had a ton of swelling while on the trip, like very bad swelling. It started from the airplane, even though I was very careful. I wore compression stockings and I was doing all the things I could do to help prevent swelling, as well as like treat the POTS at that point. That's what I thought it was, from what my doctor said, is probably POTS. And I still had insane swelling from this airplane ride that did not go away. I was swollen for probably 2.5, 3 weeks. Like my legs were so swollen. My toes got so swollen that my 2 big toenails were pushed half off of my toe, and I had to wrap my toe up to go anywhere, like both big toes. I could barely wear sneakers, but it was cold there. Like it was just a mess, and I was so sore, so exhausted 24/7. Like I felt terrible. That's all beside the concept of me almost passing out in public like multiple times and having just like, it was just terrible. Like I don't even want to think about it, honestly. Let's just move on from that. So trip sucked. Was great in other ways, but sucked in terms of my health. Oh man. So I got home and I finally had, after a month and a half of being home, I had my my POTS specialist appointment. So I went and saw this cardiologist. He's a POTS specialist. I went and saw him and I was on a beta blocker, which again, the point of the beta blocker is to basically decrease the race in heart rate. So he said, we're gonna do a POTS test in the office. There's something called a tilt table test, if you know about POTS, that he does not do because it's very hard on the patient and can have like false positives. So he does the in-person test, which some people will not get diagnosed from the in-person test, like it's not sensitive enough, but some people get over-diagnosed with the tilt table test, is how he explained it to me. Again, not a doctor, don't know for sure, don't quote me on anything. So he said, we're just gonna do the in-person test. I was like, okay, I am on a beta blocker right now. I don't know. He's like, yeah, you might not pass the test in that case. That won't mean that you don't have POTS because you're currently being treated. So we did the test and I still had the heart rate go up high enough that I like passed, in terms of like I had POTS. I don't know how to say that. I keep saying passed or failed. I failed the test, I passed the test. Basically the test showed I had POTS even while on the medication. He did tell me that the one I was on was not the best one. He switched my medication and officially diagnosed me with POTS. This was just like 2-3 weeks ago. So I started this new medication. He talked to me a ton about lifestyle changes and everything I can do to help support this diagnosis and help support me and my health and everything that would help me. And I've started doing a lot of those things, but that's not the point of this video today. So diagnosed with POTS, started that just a few weeks ago, and truly this medication switch has helped me so much. Like it's so much better than the one I was on previously, like so much better. I have been able to work 30 to 35 hours a week for the first time in so long, and I feel so much more like myself, which has all been such amazing timing because after my trip, when I got back, Oliver shared with me that he wanted to join me in running the business, which I have offered multiple times and have always wanted him to. He decided he wanted to do that, which I was so happy about, and I'm still so happy about. Like, I can't even explain how happy I am about that. So he put in his notice at his job, and he has just 2 more weeks at his job before he is going to be working with me in the business, and we are going to be co-owners of the business. That's super exciting. That being said, this timing has all been very great because as I've started feeling better and knowing Oliver is going to be joining, I've obviously needed to increase the workload and start trying to find new clients because we are going to need more work. And I have not felt capable or able to grow the business at all in the past year, if not more, because of my health. Like, I did not want to take on new clients by myself. I didn't feel like I could promise anything to anyone. So taking on new clients was just not fair to the clients nor to me. So I have not done that. But as I felt better, I am knowing I'm about to have a whole nother person to support and help get the work done. I have begun taking on new clients, as well as telling my current clients that, you know, I'm open for more work if they have more projects for me. And I started working with a couple of new clients just in the past month, which has been amazing. So these have all been referrals that I basically have started actually taking on the referral initial discovery calls. Like, I had been basically saying no to them anytime I was referred someone because I just didn't have the bandwidth health-wise. Now I do. So things have been obviously a mess. The past year has been pretty horrendous, but things are really looking up for 2025. I'm very hopeful and excited. And, you know, me and Oliver are both looking at this like it's a trial. We're going to see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, whether because he doesn't like the work or we don't want to work together and realize it's not good for us, or the business is not able to sustain both of us financially, then he's gonna go find a different job, or like, we're gonna figure it out. Like, we're not concerned about that. I, of course, have anxiety about this concept and the risk involved because I've done it before, but also I know it's gonna be okay because I've done it before. So I feel very hopeful and excited for what this means for the business and what this could look like and could be. And that being said, what does that mean for my channel? Well, it means a lot of things. First of all, that I actually feel like I have the bandwidth to make videos. You know, the fact that I could barely work 20 hours a week meant that I was burnt out most of the week and exhausted and fatigued, and I spent a lot of days laying in bed or on the couch, like barely able to really get around easily without feeling super dizzy and exhausted. On top of that, I couldn't afford for editing because I wasn't making enough money to pay for an editor, and I was not able to edit it myself because I didn't have the capacity or the strength to do it. Now I will have the time to edit and the strength and ability to edit, so I will be editing. I'm not a great editor, so just bear with me. Hopefully, eventually, I can either have Alice support with editing again, or if she doesn't have the bandwidth, then someone else or something. So we'll look at that in the future whenever I can afford it, but right now, that is not in the cards, so I will be editing by myself for now. We will see how it goes. Oliver might also help me edit, which would be nice. I am just so excited to take you guys along with me for 2025 and share kind of the ups and downs of figuring out this new business structure, new business model, and working with my husband on it, as well as navigating my health issues in it, and just really prioritizing not burning out, really prioritizing my health and sustainability for my health and for me and our family and our life, and also really prioritizing flexibility. That is a huge thing for both of us that we really want to make kind of the core of what we do in our business. That being said, I feel like I have been journaling and thinking about a lot just what I want my life to look like and what I want this channel to look like. And I have 4 values that I have really honed in on that feel super important to me. The first one is business freedom, work freedom without burnout. Like, no burnout. Like, we're not grinding. We are not putting in 60-hour weeks. We are not allowing clients to push us around. Like, we're not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not saying yes to clients that I don't want to work with. Like, I am prioritizing like entrepreneurial freedom. Like that's the phrase. So if you're all about that and wanting to build a business that is really for you, like it's for you, it's your lifestyle, it's not just about making money, then like this is the place for you, because that is what I'm going to be talking about and sharing about and how I'm doing that, the principles behind it from a business perspective, the boundaries from like a personal perspective, and just yeah, we're gonna figure it out together. I feel like I've done a pretty good job at it, especially the past year. Like I've had to learn how to do it because I've been forced to do it. So I'm really taking that and keeping those principles while I hopefully improve health-wise and continuing with them so that I don't burn out. And I can't burn out, because the thing about POTS is, from what I understand now, it could go away, it could never go away. And it's really about keeping your lifestyle sustainable and not pushing yourself. So that is like my top priority with my business, with our business, because Oliver will be in it too. The second value is financial flexibility, but like not like financial freedom. Like, yeah, that's great. And I would love to have financial freedom one day, but that's not the goal or the focus right now. The goal is financial flexibility, like for real life, like not some dream life. I'm kind of over goals right now. Like obviously I have goals in my head, but I don't want these crazy big drastic goals. Like I can have like a dream or have fun having a conversation or like envisioning something in my head. But like I'm not setting goals for this super unsustainable lifestyle, because what I've come to realize is we can set these crazy goals all we want. And I'll talk about this more in another video, but if we are not thinking about the lifestyle that would be required to get to that goal and then sustain that goal, then like we're just setting ourselves up for failure. And that is something I never thought about before my health problems, mainly because I didn't really need to think about it, right? But it's something honestly everyone should think about, whether you're in perfect health and super young and have all this energy, or you're someone like me that's struggling with a chronic health issue. Like sustainability in your daily life is so important. So that's something I'm bringing with me into 2025 and we'll be sharing more about as well. And more specifically, like from the financial perspective, how I've been able to work only 20 hours a week when I wasn't feeling well, how we have managed to continue paying our bills, how I had set myself up for success before all these health problems to be able to sustain us longer than I really ever expected to need sustaining for this lower income, and how we've really bounced back and are quickly bouncing back since coming back from this trip, which cost a lot of money, and dealing with all the medical bills and expenses that I've had in the past year. So especially with the big new risk on the horizon of Oliver quitting his stable income to join the business too. Third value is personal growth, which I've always prioritized, but through intentional choices. So in the past, I've done a lot of different personal growth challenges. I've read a lot of personal growth books, which you can see all here, but it really hasn't always been intentional. It's really been whatever content has been thrown at me, whatever new book is popular that I hear about. It's like, ooh, let me read that. Let me try that challenge. Let me do this. And while I have found things that work and things I've loved and things that I've hated and that have not worked for me, and a lot of it is just trial and error, I really want to be intentional in the upcoming year about what I am working on for myself and what I am prioritizing. Through therapy over the past few years, I have really seen the power of focusing on something specific and really working towards that thing. And that is something that my therapist was super helpful in streamlining for me. I was kind of just, again, like all over the place. And she really helped me just like anchor in on the most important things on like a weekly basis and really focus on those things. And I want to continue that process going forward with my own personal growth journey that's like on my own, independent of therapy. So if you're sick of the whole like constant pushing at you 20 new different habits you should try and personal growth tactics and challenges and et cetera, then again, like this channel will be for you, and what I'll be sharing will be for you, because it will always have the thread and the reminder of really picking things that are sustainable for you and intentional towards what you really want out of your life. So it's kind of like de-influencing for personal growth, if that makes sense. De-influencing for honestly all of this, like business growth, personal growth, financial growth, it's the de-influencing of all of that. I'm so sick of the like flashy blah, blah, blah. Again, that doesn't mean that the thumbnails and titles won't be flashy blah, 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 because like that's unfortunately what we have to do, but the content will not be. It won't, I promise. And then my fourth and last value, which is very near and dear to my heart, very important to me, is living life on my own terms, but without perfection. That is like the key. Like, it's not just living life on my own terms. Like, that's great, cool. Like, yeah, we get that. Without perfection. Because for me, living life on my own terms has always led to a very perfectionist mindset. And I'm not doing that anymore. Like, we're not doing the perfectionist mindset. It's not sustainable. It doesn't help me on my journey of having better health and figuring out how to manage my POTS. It doesn't help. Like, perfection is not getting me anywhere. It's never really got me anywhere. And honestly, it's always been messy action that has really pushed me forward in my life and my business. So I'm taking that same principle and I'm applying it to my entire life, that we are doing this without perfection, without judgment. Like, none of that bad energy is coming into the life I want to live and what that looks like on my own terms. So we will be prioritizing all the cozy life, like travel, sustainable financial decisions, like all of that together, all while working towards the life we do want. It is about living life on my own terms. It is about getting where I want to be, but with the mindset of, is this sustainable? Like, do I want the life that comes with that goal? Do I want the daily life that comes with that? And making sure that I'm focusing on the small day-to-day life that equals what I'm viewing in my head as like the long-term goal. Anyways, this has been the longest video. I know. I really am curious how you all are doing. Some of you have been around for so long and I really would love updates on your life. So leave your little life updates in the comments down below and tell me what's been going on with you, because it's just been way too long and I miss you guys. I miss recording. I miss the community here and I'm really excited to reconnect with you all. So let me know if there's anything specific you want to hear more about up next. I already have some videos planned for the next few months and I'm going to be posting weekly. So if there's anything specific that I talked about that you're like, give us this like ASAP, let me know, because I'm very happy to like move things around on the schedule to get out whatever you guys want to hear more about very soon. But that's all I'm going to say in this video because it's been long enough. Thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.